My name is Bobby Sahni. I am a partner and co-founder of Ethnicity Matters, a multicultural marketing and advertising agency based out of Toronto, Canada.
Excellent. Well, thanks for taking the time to interview with us,
Sure.
Bobby. The first question I have is, could you please tell us a little bit about your role at Ethnicity Matters?
I am the partner and co-founder of Ethnicity Matters. So we are an agency based out of Toronto. We focus on four things: education and training, research and insights, strategy and planning, creative and execution, all helping corporations and organizations connect with the ethnic and immigrant communities across Canada, the U.S., and hopefully one day in other parts of the world as well.
It's hopefully to go global one day,
Absolutely.
right? Like most agencies.
Definitely.
So what was your inspiration of launching this company?
We launched the company for really three reasons. Number one, it's all about growth. Canada is an aging population, and we don't have enough babies. And because of those two reasons, immigration is a growth strategy for our country. So the influx of immigrants coming to Canada, it's not going to stop anytime soon. Number two, as those immigrants come to Canada, they bring with them unique cultural preferences, what we like to call cultural baggage. They're bringing their preferences with them to the country, and it's actually defining what they buy, what they don't buy, where they shop, where they don't shop, and so on and so forth. The third thing is, because of number one and number two, number three is the fact that all organizations, irrespective of what industry you're in, what category you're in, everybody needs to evolve and change the way they go to market and the way they speak to the ethnic and immigrant communities. And if you are not changing the way you're going to market, chances are your competitors are, and if you and your competitors are not changing the way you go to market, there's a reason why many immigrants, especially Asian immigrants, are entrepreneurs as well. They're able to recognize and fill those gaps.
Oh, that's very true, actually. So, doing that, so what do you think the characteristics of the multicultural market in Canada is now?
Canada's a very unique market. I think there is a intersection that we are seeing of what we'll call mainstream and multicultural, and these two worlds are actually overlapping more and more every day. The fact that Hockey Night in Canada, which is an iconic Canadian brand, is being broadcast in Punjabi, shows how far we are going, and vice versa. The fact that songs like Gangnam Style or foods like butter chicken, etc., are so widely common and accepted not only by the Asian community but right across the masses of Canada. It shows that there is this this growing intersection of what is mainstream and what is multicultural.
So, how has that evolved over the last 5 years?
Yeah, I think it's multicultural is mainstream. That's the way I would put it. It's no longer about having these separate silos, especially from a marketing and advertising perspective. We're seeing a lot more companies break down those barriers and not just have their marketing and advertising efforts geared to mainstream audiences and then geared to multicultural audiences. They're becoming one and the same. And this notion of today we call it multicultural marketing, but in the next 10 years, 15 years, it's really just going to be marketing, because it is absolutely recognition that these communities are becoming mainstream, and they're actually redefining what that Canadian identity is as well.
And I think you spoke on this point earlier in your presentation. It was like, what are some of the approaches that work really well? Right. In the multicultural market in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of frameworks that I shared with the audience, but off the top, the ones that I think are most important is, one, recognizing that there is diversity within the diversity, not only across different ethnicities, but recognizing across tenure in Canada, across gender, across incomes. education levels. We actually need to get a lot more deeper and not bucket everybody into the same category simply based on their ethnicity. I think we also need to recognize this notion that Canadians do wave two flags. We're very proud of the countries we or our parents have come from, but we're equally as proud to be part of the fabric of Canada that recognizes this diversity and actually enables everybody to be proud of where they've come from as well. I think the authenticity factor is also something that's very important as well, not only amongst the ethnic and immigrant communities, but really right across with all Canadians. We really value that authenticity, and we can smell a phony, and we've seen a lot of companies that have failed miserably for that reason. So I think those are some of the characteristics that make our country a little bit different.
It is. It obviously offers some challenges along the way with it too.
Yeah.
So is there, like, what are the major challenges that you actually see?
I think the challenge in Canada, very similar to that challenge in the U.S. as well, is getting corporations to recognize firstly the sheer size of these communities, but also the power and influence that they do have as well. Not only from a political standpoint, but just from a dollar standpoint as well. It's these communities that are growing and spending, and therefore corporations need to recognize that there needs to be a shift in the way they go to market. The good news for us in Canada is if a company is thinking about multicultural marketing, their default choices or their first line of thinking is going to be the Chinese and the South Asian communities. Where that's different from the U.S. is if a company is thinking of multicultural marketing, you obviously have the sheer power and numbers of the Hispanic community and the African American community, and then Asian sometimes can be, their third line of thought. So fortunately for us, the Chinese and the South Asian are the big two, and that's where most companies are thinking as their default choice.
I think you actually answered one of my next question. Was like, what are some of the learnings from multicultural marketing in Canada that you think could be applicable in the Asian market here in the U.S. and how so?
Yeah.
But I think you already answered that question just right there.
Yeah.
So appreciate that. I
Cool.
think that's all the questions we have.
Awesome.